Hello, California! Oh my gosh! All right. It is so good to be here. Now look, I have to say right now, thank you, because I get to serve in the Senate with two bold brothers named Padilla and Schiff. You all have sent two of the strongest leaders I have ever had to serve with, and I want to say thank you. Now look, I had a speech that I was going to give today, but last night I went to bed and I had a very emotional dream, and I decided to throw out the teleprompter, and I just want to share with you from the heart the person that came to me in a dream. This is weird, but I want to share it with you nonetheless. Last night I had a dream about my grandfather. My grandfather came to California right after the war. He was a union man, worked for UAW. They moved to Sugar Hill in Los Angeles. My mom went to Manual Arts High School, and my grandfather was this extraordinary man who loved on his family so strong. He was an activist. Him and my grandmother were big in the Urban League and the NAACP. They were strong in their church. They continued to be union organizers. And by the time their grandchildren came along, me and 6 others, they were determined to make sure that we honored the traditions of this nation. You see, they knew that love is sometimes unrequited. They loved this country so much even when the country didn't love them back. And they knew that we would face trials and tribulations beyond our imagination, but they wanted us to rest on our ancestors. They knew the instruction book for how we move forward is by us looking back. This is one of the reasons why they're trying to erase our history, try to ban our books, is because they don't want us to understand that the history of this nation is not an absence of wretchedness and hatred and bigotry. The richness of this nation is how we faced that darkness with our light, how we overcame it with our strength. My grandparents wanted us to know that American history is a perpetual testimony to the achievement of impossible things against impossible odds. They wanted us to know that real change does not come from Washington. It comes from communities. It comes from the streets. It comes from the people who stand up and have shown over and over again against the powerful, against the elected, against the rich, that the power of the people is greater than the people in power. And so my grandparents, these proud Californians, they taught me the stories. They celebrated the people from Harvey Milk to Cesar Chavez. They knew that our ancestors would speak to us. My grandparents knew that we would face fascism again in our time, that we would face authoritarian leaders again in our time, that we would face demagogues in our time, that we would face people that tried to trash our Constitution, erode our democracy with chaos, with corruption, and with cruelty. But my grandparents would teach us, do not center those people in the story. Do not let them steal all the oxygen and the attention. Keep the focus on the people. Center the power of the people in their stories. I stood on the floor of the Senate for 25 hours. I stood because the people of my state, activists in my nation, would not accept that we didn't have power. Let me tell you something. In my supermarket, I would go in and people would always come up to me and said, "What are you doing?" as they're trying to cut health care. "What are you doing?" as they're violating due process rights. "What are you doing?" And I would tell them what I'm doing, and they would say to me, "It's not enough." And I would tell my constituents, wait a minute, we don't have the majority in the Senate. We don't have the majority in the Congress. We can't do this. And they would interrupt me and say, Cory Booker, are you an American or an Americant? Don't call on us to do more unless you're willing to do more. And so my staff and I listened to folks. We threw out the playbook and we said, let's go back to what our ancestors showed us. Let's cause some good trouble. We are here because of people who stood up when they were told to sit down. We're here because of people who spoke up when they were told to be silent. We're here because of people who marched in front of fire hoses and dogs. We are here because of people who faced outrageous obstacles and still banded together and said, we shall overcome. Oh, we're here not because it was easy. We're here because it's hard. We're here because weeping did endure through the night, but joy did come in the morning. Well, let me tell you about the last time I saw my grandfather alive. He had battled cancer again and again, won many battles, but this time cancer was getting him, and I was leaving, and I didn't know this would be the last time I would see my grandfather, but I said to him, Granddad, I love you. And he looked at me and he said, I love you, I love your children, and I love your grandchildren. Well, I didn't have children or grandchildren. I thought his dementia made him confuse me with his son, my uncle. Well, I left him and I was in the middle of a campaign to be mayor of the city of Newark, and I know exactly where I was. I was driving on 18th Avenue, and I get a phone call from my mom, call your grandmother, your grandfather has died. Well, I didn't do what my mom told me. We pulled over to the side of the road and I wept into the dashboard. And then suddenly I remembered his last words. I love you, I love your children, I love your grandchildren. And I realized right then that they actually meant more than I realized at the moment. It wasn't delusion or confusion. It was the truth that my grandfather, your grandparents, our ancestors, when they were alive, they loved so strong and so hard that generations yet unborn benefited from the blessings of their light, of their love, of their grace, of their grit, of their guts, of their fights, of their tears, of their sweat, of their blood. We are here because our ancestors loved us so great and so mighty. But let me tell you something. I was telling that story to a man named Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, let me tell you, I love Dr. Tyson, but he's an atheist. I'm a man of faith, and we joke with each other. But I'm going to tell you right now, I have met more righteous people that are atheists than I meet sometimes hypocrites that claim to be religious. I always say, before you tell me about your religion, first show it to me in how you treat other people. I don't understand that I serve in Congress with people who say they're Christian evangelicals, but they're the first people to cut food programs from the poor, cut health care from the sick, cut services from the disabled. That don't sound like my Jesus. Well, Neil and I were arguing, and he goes, Cory, let me do this for you. Let me do this for you. I'm going to do something. I'm going to tell you something spiritual. And I go, what do you mean, Neil? You're going to get spiritual on me? He goes, yeah. He goes, Cory, when you look at the sun today, know that you're not seeing the sun where it is because it takes 8 minutes for that light to travel to Earth. You're seeing the sun where it was. And when you look at the stars in the sky at night, Cory, some of those stars are hundreds and hundreds of millions of light years away. Some of those stars have died and gone out, but you're still seeing them as if they're there because the light that they gave off while they were alive continues forever. He goes, I know your grandfather is past, but his light is still something you bathe in the warmth of. It moved me and made me think about that idea of our light. Because right now, this nation needs our light. There are generations yet unborn that are being affected by the cuts to scientific research, to cancer research. There are generations yet unborn that are being affected by the people that are being wrongfully deported from our country, who are our essential workers, who are our neighbors, who are our brothers. They need our light right now as they try to attack California's environmental protections. And so I want to end with this story of a man my grandfather would have been proud of. We are in a spiritual storm right now. But in New Jersey, we had a horrific storm. It was called Hurricane Sandy. On the night of that storm, I was driving in my car with 2 police officers that were in the front seats, and I was in the back. And as the wind shook our car, I got a call. And it was a call that began with what I believed at the time was the stupidest question in America. Forgive me if that sounds rude, but let me tell you what that stupid question was. I answered the phone, and the person said, "Hello, this is the White House operator. Will you hold for the President of the United States?" And I'm like, who says no to that question? Yes, I will hold. And let me tell you this right now. This was 2013, so I miss Obama. I miss Obama. I miss Obama, and I miss her husband too. Michelle! Michelle, if you married me, I'd be president right now. So I answer my phone, and it's Michelle's husband. And he is doing something beautiful from the Oval Office. He's checking in on me and checking in on the city. We had an amazing phone call, the worst storm in a century, and the President of the United States is checking in on people around the state directly. It was amazing. I hung up the phone on him. And as soon as we hung up from our conversation, my phone rang again. This time, no operator. It was the governor of my state. You all have never heard of him. His name is Chris Christie. Never heard of him out here. I know. But this was not a time for partisanship. It was a time for patriotism. It was time to put people first, not politics. And we had a great conversation. But as soon as I hang up the phone with him, we're going up a hill, and I see at the top of the hill, through the rain and the wind and the darkness, I see a light being swung back and forth. As we get closer, I see behind this man with this light was all the trees at the apex of the hill had come falling down, pulling down the wires and the wood. It was a mess. But here was this man swinging his light. As we got closer to him, I saw it was an elderly man in a yellow slicker. My officers pulled over, so my window was facing him, and I rolled down the window, and I looked at him, and I yelled at him over the wind and the rain. I said to him, Sir, what are you doing out here?" And this elderly man looks at me as if I asked him the stupidest question in America. He points over to the twisted wires and the shattered wood, and he said, "Mayor, this is so dangerous. I'm standing here to make sure no one comes along and gets hurt." I had just talked to the President of the United States of America. I had just talked to the governor of my state. I'm the mayor of the largest city in my state, but the greatness I best saw exhibited that night was the man standing on top of a hill in dark of night in a savage storm, holding up a light so that others would not get hurt. That is what we need now. California, will you stand up? Will you hold up your light? Will you watch out for your neighbor? Will you stand up for health care? Will you stand up for Social Security? Will you stand up to Donald Trump? Because if you stand, if we stand, we will make our ancestors proud. And yet again in America, together, we shall overcome. Thank you. Thank you, California.